We begin tonight with the shocking allegation from Canada's highest office. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying security officials have credible evidence that the government of India may have been involved in the killing of a BC citizen. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot to death outside a Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey back in June.
Any involvement of a foreign government in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is an unacceptable violation of our sovereignty. It is contrary to the fundamental rules by which free, open, and democratic societies conduct themselves. As you would expect, we've been working closely and coordinating with our allies on this very serious matter.
45-year-old Nijjar was an activist campaigning for an independent Sikh homeland. He was shot by two gunmen as he sat in his truck in the Gurdwara parking lot. His death sparked outrage in the Sikh community and triggered a number of protests around the world. The allegations against the Indian government are reverberating across Canada, but especially in Surrey, where the shooting took place back in June and where Hardeep Singh Nijjar called home. Lindsay Duncombe shows us how people there are reacting.
The people who worshipped with Hardeep Singh Nijjar have been shouting accusations India was responsible for his death for months now. The Prime Minister's announcement didn't spark celebration here.
Until we actually see people behind bars, until we see actually people that were, supplying, money for this hit, carrying this out, I think it's kind of like skepticism right now that as if something's actually going to happen.
Canada knew that this was all happening and didn't intervene as per their fiduciary duty. It takes our leader to be killed for a morsel of acknowledgement.
The man India labeled a terrorist was known at his Gurdwara as an activist, leading the fight for a free Sikh state. Nijjar's death, the latest violent chapter in the long-standing and divisive fight for Khalistan, a fight this former BC Premier says Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has picked a side in.
There's a perception that Mr. Trudeau has been politically in bed with the Khalistani elements for his own political reasons. Not the violent elements, but the separatist elements.
And there was praise for the Prime Minister.
Finally, somebody that stand with Sikhs, right? And we appreciate the way what he did, right? What he said, right?
Current Premier David Eby says he was deeply disturbed and angered, adding Canadians across the country must be safe from the interference of foreign governments, including being targeted for threats or physical harm, including murder. These activists say Nijjar's death sparked fear.
It was just a deep scarring moment, I think, for the Sikh community in Canada, and also for the generation of activists that's still coming, that the reality of what we're speaking out about may lead to our death even in this country.
Sikh separatists say Canada's move today will intensify, give energy to their global fight, one that is expected to continue with rallies and town halls here in British Columbia later this month. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Surrey.
And our Tanya Fletcher joins me now live from the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara, in Surrey, where Nijjar was once the president. So, Tanya, you've been in Surrey since shortly right after the Prime Minister's announcement. Can you set the scene for us?
Leanne, it has been largely peaceful here. No mass gatherings up to this point. We've been here pretty much all day speaking with people as they've been going into and coming out of the temple. I want to just take a step back, though, so you can see more clearly what's going on behind me. You can see the Khalistan flags. Those blue and yellow flags are still surrounding the property. And take a look at that billboard. This is perhaps very telling that this is still up. You can see the red words assassination. Under that, you can see three photos. Those are officials with India's High Commission in Ottawa, and under that it says wanted. So that is the scene as we see behind us with the Gurdwara. And, I've been chatting with people all day, and while most have a definite response, a reaction, and opinion to today's developments, many are still hesitant to talk publicly about it. We spoke with a few who are willing to perhaps give their voice in an audio form, but didn't want to appear on camera. And they say that goes back to their fear over their own safety. They say that there have been threats to many people, given that what happened up to Nijjar's killing, and they say that in and of itself isn't going to go away. They say this isn't an isolated case and that this has been happening in countries around the world, and that just because Trudeau has today stood up and said this publicly, while that is a significant development, they say it is not going to end things in that sense with the way it's been going.
Yeah, Tanya, those fears are certainly understandable. However, all of this, of course, still has to go through the judicial system. And so in the short term, though, what are people calling for there?
Yeah, so we did hear, as we heard in Lindsay's piece, from a more official capacity, the BC Gurdwara Council. And, they were saying they're skeptical. Their opening line to asking for their reaction was about whether that this will do anything at all. They're skeptical. They say that, is this really going to do anything? They talked about their fears, as I mentioned before, and I'd call it tempered praise, perhaps not even praise going that far. They said that this has been a long time coming, that the Prime Minister in Canada should have done this long ago, given what the federal government knew, or so they say. And so they say that they're skeptical that today's developments will really change anything.
There's a reluctance for people to actually trust these processes, because if India is colluding like in Canada with actors that they have set out here, there's always been a question as to how much information did Canadian intelligence have when Hardeep was being warned a year in advance that your life was at risk, but nothing was done to actually protect him.
So I asked him specifically what kind of concrete steps they would like to see, what kind of specific action. He said, above all, a public inquiry. They've been calling for that before, but they say now that the Prime Minister has come out and said this, that they see no reason why a public inquiry couldn't be done. And they also say, as you heard in the clip from Lindsay's piece there, they want to see people behind bars. They want to see names of perhaps a money trail as to who was ordered to do this hit on Nijjar, according to them, allegedly. And so that's kind of where the scene is at today, certainly in stark contrast to where we saw it 3 months ago after Nijjar was killed. It was exactly 3 months to the day, by the way. He was gunned down June 18th. Today is September 18th. So 3 months have passed, and while there was a lot of tension and fear and frustrations in the days that followed and the weeks and months, today is much more tempered, you might say. A lot of people relieved, a lot of people surprised, and a lot of people waiting and watching to see where this goes from here. Leanne.
Yeah, for sure, Tanya. I'm sure people are still trying to process this, bombshell accusation. Really appreciate you bringing us that perspective. Tanya Fletcher reporting live for us in Surrey tonight. And to help us understand this story even better, I had a chance to speak with Shinder Purewal earlier today. He's the author of Sikh Ethno-Nationalism and a professor of political science at Kwantlen Polytechnic University. Shinder, what was your reaction to hearing this accusation by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau against the Indian government and its involvement in the death of Hardeep Singh Nijjar?
It's quite shocking coming from our Prime Minister, because it's such a poster. It's like people for you and me in private talking about these things. In public, when the Chief Executive Officer of Canada says this, it's very serious. If you have credible evidence, the first thing to do is to give it to the investigating agencies. They will take it to the Crown Corporation. Crown lawyers will decide whether to take this to court. And court delivers the justice. They will see whether this evidence is credible or not. So, and we also expelled one of the senior diplomat of India. That was revealed by our foreign minister.
Right, and how significant is that?
Well, it's diplomatic relations are based on reciprocity. So whatever we do, India will likely do the same. So you have a start of a new diplomatic war. We expelled their diplomat, they will expel ours. It's a tale of two different countries. The US is getting closer to India. They're becoming their strategic partners. And we have started a new Cold War.
Wow, that's really something to think about. Where does this put the future of Canada's diplomatic ties with India then?
At this moment, we are at the very low edge. It couldn't be worse, because 2010, we started comprehensive trade talks with an objective that one day we will have free trade. Now, right now, the talks are stopped 2 weeks back. Our trade minister has canceled the trip for next month. And now this is quite shocking.
As you know, we have a very large Sikh community here in BC. Do you think they should be scared or worried after hearing this news?
Well, not really. I mean, it's one case of killing. We still don't know, despite Prime Minister's statements, we still have this no conclusion that he was killed by whom. RCMP is still doing the investigation. The next stage is the Crown lawyers will decide whether it's going to the court, and the judge will decide who is guilty and who is not guilty.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you, Shinder, for speaking with us today. That's Shinder Purewal, a political science professor at Kwantlen Polytechnic University.